What's up, cinephiles? My name is TJ and welcome to Cinematech. It's time for your weekly news wrap-up, so let's get right into the film news, starting off with Martin Scorsese making me a liar, kind of. That's right, we all heard the news that The Irishman is going to be premiering at the New York Film Festival this coming September. This was after we reported in late June that that was most likely not going to happen. Going back to the original IndieWire article, we can see that this assumption was made based off something the producer said, that the film would be coming out for American Thanksgiving, and that Martin Scorsese, in a podcast, was talking about how difficult the VFX work was to complete. Obviously, none of that is actually tantamount to a declaration of a film not being in a film festival, and now we all have egg on our face. It's a lovely feeling. There is a lot of good news to glean from this, though. The fact that The Irishman will be opening the New York Film Festival this year is a good indication that it will be on a strong awards run, right up to the Oscars. But, as we all know, that pesky Steven Spielberg isn't a big fan of Netflix films, even when they cost like $150 million and are directed by one of the greatest American filmmakers of his generation. So this is actually going to be an interesting fight. If The Irishman turns out to be one of the best films of the year, will the fact that it's a Netflix film knock it down? I hope not. We all need to get over this ridiculous bias, but at the same time, we won't know for sure until we actually see the film. But let us know in the comments below. If The Irishman is good, do you think that its status as a Netflix film should hurt it? Moving on to more film festival news. TIFF has announced even more films that are going to be in the festival.
Hi.
That's right, more. And there's going to be more after that. We are going to be milking the TIFF train for a long time on this show. TIFF announced all 26 of the Canadian feature-length films that are going to be in the festival this year. The highlights include Clifton Hill by Albert Shin, David Foster, Off the Record by Barry Average, Jordan River Anderson, The Messenger by Alanis Omuswin, There's Something in the Water by Ellen Page and Ian Daniel, Antigone by Sophie D'Arespy, Black Conflicts by Nicole Dorsey. If you go to TIFF trailers, you can see the trailers and clips from almost every film that they actually announce. And Black Conflicts, that one looks real cool. And to top it off, the pink Power Ranger is back, y'all. Tammy's Always Dying comes straight from the mind of Amy Jo Johnson, most famous for wearing a pink leotard in the 90s and punching alien things in the face. She was also in Flashpoint, but I think a lot of people forgot that. The announcement of these 26 Canadian films for the festival also gives us a glimpse into what films are going to start populating the various programs at the festival. For example, we now know which film will be opening the Midnight Madness program, and its name is Blood Quantum by Jeff Barnaby. The 20th Century by Matthew Rankin will also be in the Midnight Madness section, and I gotta say, I saw a clip for this one before the TIFF Trailers channel took it down, and I know that you took it down, TIFF. I saw you do it. Honestly, I would love to be able to explain this film to you, but without visuals, I'm not really sure it would do any good. Let's just say it's a blend of animation and live action, something that you might not expect for a pseudo-historical drama about Mackenzie King, a former Canadian Prime Minister. And the fact that it's in Midnight Madness is also a little strange. Maybe that's meant to be indicative of the content itself. If the clip I saw was any indication, this film definitely gets more into weird territory than it does into gory, bloody horror territory, and that's something that Midnight Madness films at TIFF were particularly known for back in the Colin Geddes era. But now that we have Peter Capaldi as the programmer, there's a sense that things are starting to switch up a bit, that there's going to be a bit more of a focus of the weird and the strange, as opposed to just the horror and the gore, which is nice. It's a nice change of pace. Moving on, TIFF isn't the only film festival announcing films. Fantastic Fest, that lovely festival run by the Alamo Drafthouse, has announced the first wave of films that are going to be in its festival this year. The highlights from their announcement include Jojo Rabbit by Taika Waititi, In the Shadow of the Moon by Jim Mickle, First Love by Takashi Miike, and In the Tall Grass by Vincenzo Natali, which is yet another Stephen King adaptation. That man has so much money. He has all of the money in the world. I think that movie, All the Money in the World, is actually about Stephen King. Fantastic Fest is also quite well known for programming restorations of previously lost classics and just films that you probably want to see with a 4K transfer. All of these restorations are collaborations between the American Genre Film Archive, or AGFA, and another partner who is more than likely going to be releasing the film commercially. So keep that in mind as we go through the list. A lot of the commercial partners are people like Bleeding Skull and Arrow Film and Vinegar Syndrome. So if you hear the name of a film that you think you might be interested in, you should check out the link below in the description so you can find out where you can expect to buy those films from. Highlights of those restorations include Bloody Birthday by Ed Hunt, The McPherson Tape by Dean Alito, which, according to the blurb, is the first found footage horror film of all time. Sorry, Blair Witch Project.
I'm so scared.
Heather, you cried for nothing. Limbo by Tina Kraus, The Peanut Butter Solution by Michael Rubo, She-Mob by Harry West, and Tammy and the T-Rex by Stuart Rafil. Now, something that we have to consider now that Fantastic Fest has announced its first wave of lineup is how this affects the TIFF lineup, specifically the Midnight Madness lineup. So with that in mind, let's take a stab at trying to predict some of the films that are going to be in the Midnight Madness selection this year, outside of the two that we already know about. We know from previous years that Hollywood studios have been trying to get their larger films into Midnight Madness so that they can be debuted in front of a very enthusiastic audience. Halloween and The Predator were great examples from last year's festival. One out of those two films was actually worth watching. I will leave it to you to decide which one I'm talking about. It Chapter 2 seems like it would be a lock, except for the fact that the timing just doesn't work out. In order for It Chapter 2 to premiere at TIFF, it would have to be opening night, and we already know that Blood Quantum is going to be the opening night Midnight Madness film, which means that It Chapter 2 could only debut as early as the Friday, which is the day it's coming out internationally anyways, and TIFF doesn't mess around with simultaneous releases, so that's just a no-go. It will not be at TIFF, I can guarantee you that. I will bet Rob's life on it once again. No one took the last bet, I'm still offering it up. We'll see if we can get anything for it.
I'm leaving the country.
I'll get him back. Another good candidate to come from Hollywood is Rambo Last Blood. Takes a lot of the boxes, it's gonna be super gory, and TIFF would love to have Sylvester Stallone on the red carpet. The Hunt from Blumhouse is another one that I'm sure TIFF would love to have on the red carpet. And it once again ticks that box of having a lot of people dying in a lot of grisly ways, and the Midnight Madness audience loves that. Finally, we've got a bit of a dark horse, The Woman in the Window. The genre seems to fit, as it's kind of a thriller horror movie, but because of the pedigree of the cast, I imagine that if this were to be announced for the festival, it would be in a special presentation section and not Midnight Madness. Now, looking at the films from Fantastic Fest that I think might make it into TIFF, starting off with a 100% lock. This will absolutely be a Midnight Madness. You can quote me on it. And that is First Love by Takeshi Miike. And I'm just gonna read out the description for you because that is the best indicator that this is the perfect Midnight Madness film. When aspiring boxer Leo discovers that he may not have long to live, he goes all out to help drug-addicted call girl Monica, facing down gangsters, assassins, corrupt cops, and much more over the course of one long night. Quintessential Midnight Madness film, it's gonna be in there, we can just move on. A couple of other films that I think might make it in are Coco di Kokoda by Johannes Neinholm, Swallow by Carla Mirabella Davis, and The Whistlers by, and I'm so sorry if I pronounce this incorrectly, Corianlu Poramboyo. Of those three films, I think Swallow has the best bet of making it in. It veers more into the weird territory as opposed to the horror, bloody, gory type of film. It's about a pregnant woman who just has an insatiable urge to swallow everything that's in her home. And that sounds weird to me. And I think that could work really well for Midnight Madness. All right, we're done with the film festival news. We're now gonna move on to the trailers that came out this week that just make me wanna see the films so bad. And we have to start off with The Lighthouse. Coming straight from A24, it debuted at Cannes. It's by the guy who directed The Witch. It has Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe in it. And I'm showing the images right now. I feel like I don't need to say much more than this. It has everything in it that I could ever want. This is probably my most anticipated film of the year. I've been dying for this trailer, and now I have it, and everything is good in the world, and I am happy. And then to round things out, to bring everything back in a perfect circle, we have the trailer for The Irishman. And this was one that a lot of people were anticipating because it was going to be our first look at the de-aging technology that was going to be used on Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci. And I think for the most part, we can say that the de-aging technology was as good as we thought it was going to be, but it looks like Martin Scorsese is being smart about how he's using it. The scenes that it's being used in have been lit in a particular way, not to overemphasize the fact that there is a lot of digital processing going on these actors' faces.
He likes to talk, don't he?
So even though the digital de-aging technology might not be there, it might not be at a photorealistic, perfect level yet, we're seeing now that directors are being smart about its use. And that is just how CG should be used in all films. It should be used intelligently, not as a broad brush to paint over all of the imperfections and make things exciting. That's not how it should work, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and I would love to know what your opinion is. Please comment down below. Tell us what you think about all of the stories I talked about today. How do you feel about The Irishman debuting at the New York Film Festival, and how does that affect its Oscar chances? Do any of the Canadian features coming to TIFF excite you? Is anything that's debuting at the Fantastic Fest on your must-see list? And of the two trailers we talked about, which one are you more excited about? It's obviously The Lighthouse. You can all just write The Lighthouse. That's fine. But The Irishman, it's piqued my curiosity now that I've finally had a chance to see it. With that, we are done. Thank you for watching Cinematheque this week. We are not going to have a weekly news update next week because I'm on vacation, but there will be a video, and I'm just going to be talking about some of the projects that are going to be coming up and released on this channel in the very near future. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. You'll see me in a week, but time is weird on the internet.